Hey everyone, good evening to all of you, and thank you for joining. We'll be starting soon. This will be the third session of JS and Angular workshop, and today we'll be learning about how to make a mini project using Angular from scratch. And we hope that you attended the previous sessions as well. In case you did not, you can find them on our YouTube playlist in the Web and Firebase section. And it is mandatory to have attendance in the JS and Angular workshops in order to be eligible for gifts that will be given to those who are the top submissions of the assignments. We'll be sharing the links to the assignment and the attendance form soon here. So, for now, let's start with the session. Uh, Again, we have Akshay sir here today. He'll be going through everything that you need to build a small project. So I'd like Akshay sir to come and take over.
Yes, thank you, Sharma. So let me share my screen. So yesterday I taught you guys what is Angular and some components and how you can interact between components. Um, so today I'll be showing you guys a to-do app. So one thing I just wanted to say is, just 2 hours is not enough to teach Angular or master it. So I will give you enough of an understanding so that you will be, um, you know, confident to use Angular and know why you want to use Angular. After this, I'll be sharing some resources with your lead and you'll be getting it. So those resources will help you with everything you need, and it's not really long. So the resources will have everything that I've told you so far and code examples and explanations. So whenever you're building your project, it'll be really helpful for you. So if it makes any more of a consolation, I can even say that I learned Angular myself from that resource. So I'll be giving you the same resource from where I've learned. um, so yesterday we were doing a test project. So today we don't really have much time to do an entire to-do app. So I already have a ready one, and I will show you the code walkthrough of this, and we can even maybe side by side copy paste snippets and then see which part belongs to what. So if you guys remember from yesterday, you need to write ng serve to start your Angular application in a dev server. So whenever you're pushing your Angular code to a server so that it goes for production, the difference is instead of ng serve, you're going to do ng build. So it's going to build everything and it's going to put it in a folder called build here. And only that build folder is going to be going to your production server where it is going, the index file is going to be served. So all of this is just for developers. So whenever you want to deploy stuff, you're going to use ng build, not serve. Just wanted to get that out of the way. And before this loads, I will tell you guys about a very important concept in Angular. It is observables, RxJS. So this RxJS is really important when you're doing Angular. It's not really that important when you're doing React, because unless you plan on doing Redux, um, it doesn't help you. So an observable, you can think of it as a placeholder. So this observable, right? It holds. It's a placeholder which is going to take multiple values. So whenever the value is changed, the observer's value. Oh wait, let me just show you here. Can I clear it from here? Yeah. Yeah. So let's see. There is an observable and there is an observer. So this one has what, 1, 2, 3. So the values keep changing. So when its value is 1, the observer is going to see the value is 1 and use the value 1. But when the value is changed to 2, the observer gets notified and the value is changed to 2 here. So, and when the value is changed to 3, here also it's going to be changed to 3. So what I'm trying to tell you guys is, this is, for example, you can think of it like an event emitter, but whenever this is just pertaining to values. So this is a very important thing when you're working in Angular. So this uses a design pattern called publisher. This is the publisher and this is the subscriber. So let me just show you guys what it is. So you don't really need to know this, how they're creating one. There are simpler ways to create it. But if you see, they're saying new observable and they are passing the values subscriber.next 1, 2, and 3. So, and then after a time of 1 second, they're passing 4 and they're completing it. So, how will you, you know, access those values? I'll tell you here. Observer dot, sorry, observable, the observable's name dot subscribe, and you have 3 functions. So one is next. Whenever a new value is pushed to you, that value you're going to access and do some logic. Error. If there is an error, you will be handling the error here. And the last one is complete. So when the observable is done execution, you're gonna complete it here. So one more thing I want to tell you is, an observable is going to be registered on your browser window, and the more and more and more and more and more observables you add to this browser window, the slower your window is going to get, because your window is allocating resources to watch some value, and whenever the value is changed, you're going to get it back. So resources are allocated when you're observing values. So you cannot have infinite observables. So after you're done with an observable, here if you see you have subscribed, you have to unsubscribe. So here in this example, if you see, got value 1, got value 2, got value 3, just after subscribe here. So if you remember timeouts, here this is having a timeout of 1 second. So JavaScript does not wait for it to complete, it just moves on to the next line. And after 1 second, when it is complete, got value 4 and the observable is completed. So I just wanted to remember this. So observers, you can see, you don't really need this. An observer basically is just the functions that you pass in, that do something with the value in the subscription. That's your observer. And there are operators like pipe and all of these. Yeah, this is something really useful. This off from our exchange is going to just make an observable. If you say off 1, 2, and 3, and this off is just going to emit 1, 2, and 3, one after the other. So if you want to convert a value into an observable, you just say off, and that value is going to be converted to an observable. That's a very easy way of doing it. Pipe, you don't really need it for your project. Unsubscribe, yeah, here if you see here, unsubscribe, subscription. So whenever you're subscribing here, right, this is going to be stored in this subscription. After you're done with your work, you're going to have to unsubscribe to save some system resources. I just wanted to tell you people this much. And there is one more important thing called subject. Yeah, I think this one. So subject is something that is both an observable and an observer. So it does both jobs. I will show you that via code. So why did I have to go into observables? I'll tell you. It is because all of your HTTP calls, right? They are going to be observables. You know, yeah, look at this. So all of your HTTP calls are going to return observables. They're not going to return responses, but they're going to give you observables. So that is why you need to know RxJS. Just a little. You don't need too much of it. If you use React or Vue, you will be using something like Axios to do HTTP calls. But as I said in our last class, Angular is a really full-fledged framework. You don't really need third-party packages for anything. So this HTTP client is going to be used. I'll show you how we can do it. So before we start there, services. I do hope you guys remember services yesterday. So services have some code which can be shared among components. That's about it. So you're going to remove functionality from components and put it in services so that you can make it easier to use and it can be shared. So now let's see components. So if I will show you guys routing as well. So yesterday, if you saw, we had this routing, right? Yesterday's it was in a different file. That is a good approach. Go with it. So let me just pull out yesterday's project, I guess. So this was auto generated, right? The code. So you don't really need to do anything. I'll tell you what you're gonna do for routing. And we were in app and app routing module. So here, if you see, there is this routes array. I'll tell you what to add there, and this automatically it is going to be registered in your app module. Here, if you see, app routing module is being used here. So you don't really need to do anything. It's auto generated. All of your routes are going to go in this one array. You don't need to do anything else for routing. Let me show you the routes here. So to route, there are two things. One is direct routing and another is child path. If you want children, it's totally optional. You can just go through the documentation. It's pretty easy to get, but this is mandatory. So if you see, this array takes in objects, okay, and this object simply has the path, and it says what component has to be rendered. It's just task component. So here, if you see task component, so we are rendering this task component. So if you see, for the route about, you're rendering about component right here. So this is being rendered. So that is how it is controlled. So you don't really need to trouble yourself with the internal implementation of Angular. You put your routes here, it is going to work. But what happens to app component at that point? Because whenever we start our application, app component is what is running. So how will it know where to put all of this? So I will show you. In app component, you need to do one change in the HTML. You have to add this router outlet. So this component that you see here, right, this task component, whenever you're on that route, this task component is going to replace this router outlet. Or if you're in this about path, this about component is going to replace this router outlet. So that is what this is. So you have to put it in your app component, and here, since header and footer is common for all pages, it is there here. So between the header and footer, the content is changing, so you're just having a router outlet. Now you have successfully separated it. So let's go code wise. In your app component TS, you really won't have any code, since everything is going to be in its own component. So you just have to have this router outlet and any common thing that you want for your entire application, have it here, and then you look at the first one. So first let's look at our application. So this is the application. When you click on add, all of this shows up. Add task, task one, Angular session. I'll write date and time. I don't really want to give proper values. I'll just say 1 to 3 is our date and time, and set reminder and save task. Oh yeah, the server is not starting. I actually had a dummy server for this, so that we have some data that we can does npm run server. So we are using something called a JSON server. You can also look it up. JSON server is really simple, but I think you will be needing to use Firebase, so there's no real point in going into it. So now our server is started. Let's just reload this page, and here you can see some tasks are loaded from the server. So now Angular session, date time, I'll just set today, and I don't want a reminder. Save task, done. You can see Angular session is added. If you double click on it, we are setting a reminder. Double click, you're removing the reminder, and on click of this X, it's being removed, and on click of about, we are routing to /about. But if you see, this is never going to reload because it's just doing the DOM manipulation. So now and close, add. Okay, I think that's a bug. If I have it on close and then I come here, then I come back, it's still saying close. That's a bug. So now I'll show you guys how you can build this. So first things, let's have a look at the components. You can basically just inspect and see all of the components here. If you see here, app root, your entire Angular project is here in this app root. Here, if you see, first this is container. Look at our code. Yeah, I'll just close this for a while. Yeah, container, app header, router outlet, app footer. So you see here now what happens. Container, app header. This is just a part of app header, so I'll just, and then router outlet, and then your app tasks and app footer. So you see this app tasks was not in our HTML. It is added by this router outlet. If I go to about, app tasks became app about. So this is how Angular basically works. So let's see how we can do this now. So first we have our app header. So what is an app header? There's header. So now in the HTML we have a header tag, we have h1 with title, and we have app button, another component, and then we just have this much. So let's go to the TS file. If you see, the title must be here because the title is used in the HTML using interpolation. So it must be a variable here. So now you see this show add task subscription. We have two more variables. So what is this? Show add task is used to tell which button is going to be displayed. If you see, we have two different views for this button. It comes close and red or add and green. So that is what we're doing. So we are saying if you want to show add task, if it's already shown, then you display red, because then it has to be closed, right? If it is not shown, then green. So basically you're just saying color is equal to, you're interpolating this value. If it is show at task, it's red. If not, it's green. Same. If it is, it's close. If not, it is add. And then we are having a custom event, btn click. So where do custom events come from? They have to come from inside this component itself. So let's go to the button component. So in the button component, what do we have? We have a button, and this is one of the directives I told you about, ng style. So in ng style, basically what we're doing here is you're passing an object here. This is an object, and the property, it is background color, and the color here, color should be a variable because you are passing it inside square brackets. Come here, color is an input, so that means it's a prop. So where is the prop coming from? It is coming from our here. You see this color, it's a prop. You see this text, it's a prop. So we have not used square brackets here because we are interpolating. Since we're interpolating, we're not using square brackets. So color and text we are getting here, we're passing it here, we are getting color and text. If you remember, this means we are definitely getting the value, don't worry about it. So and then output, btn click. If you remember event emitters, we have btn click as an event, and we are basically on click, we're sending this event back. So if you see the html, it's basically that much. On click, this is a default event. On click, you go here to this function, and then you emit that an event has been, it has occurred. An event has occurred. So what happens next? And here, if you see, text is being displayed, add or close. So it's displayed. Now let's see in our header what is happening. So if you see there, we were having a special event, right? btn click. On btn click, go to toggle and add task. So here, if you see, toggle and add task is going to be there. And services, this is a good point to dive into services. So services have to be injected. So it's nothing really crazy. You just have to, in your module file, right, all your components have to be declared, and all of your services have to be marked as providers here. I don't know, this code doesn't have it, but all of your services have to be put here as the provider. All right. So let me just show you an example. You don't really need to do anything. How to generate a service. So I'll generate it here in, it'll automatically do it in src, I guess. So let's say here in project, right, cd src, cd src. Now we're here, right? Again, let me see, cd app. So I'll create a new folder for services. New folder, services, cd services. So when we are in services, we do ng generate service, or else nggs. This is the short form. Let's see what happens. The name. Since I didn't give a name, it's asking for a name, so I'll say sample FN service. Now it created two files. So one is the service itself and the testing file. You don't have to worry. And Angular automatically adds dot service. So I should have just called it example. So now, if you see app module, it's not here. So you have to actually add it to your providers. Here you come here and say sample service, and it's added. You have to add it to your providers array. So here also it should be. I think the new update has made it optional. I'm not sure because for Angular 8 you had to, but it's fine. You just generate it and you add it to your providers. Let's just add it for now. Task service, task service, and UI service. Added it, save it. Let's just make sure our app is working the same way. I'll add. Still working. So it's good for you to add it. It helps with compilation and stuff. So you add your services to your providers array. So now wherever you're using it, right? If you remember this constructor, this is where you need to add this private UI service. This is the name. Okay, the name with which you're using. If you see, it's lowercase u, but the service itself is going to be in uppercase u. The service is uppercase u, but you are calling it lowercase u, UI service, and you are telling its type. It is of type UI service. And then I will tell you what is happening next. Another important thing is router. Are we even using this router? Okay. Are we using this? Yeah. No, when? Oh, yeah. So, oh, yeah. I'll tell you why there was that bug. Okay. This only happens. This part. Sorry, this button, right? This button only appears if the route is equal to slash. So here, if you see, a router is also a service that is already provided from Angular. So you have to get it from here, import router from Angular slash router. So that router you have to add it here. You have to inject it here, and then you see what happens. Return this route.url. You're going to get just after this base domain. So here, right, you're going to get it as slash about. You're not going to get the entire thing. You're only going to get after the base domain. So here it is going to be slash about, and here it is going to be slash because there is nothing. So we are saying this hash route is going to return a boolean value if it is this route. What is our route? um, yeah, hash route. So we are basically checking it here, right? We are passing a parameter to this function. We are passing this slash, and here what is happening, it is going to return if it is true or false, if you are on the correct route or not. If you are on the correct route, what is going to happen is there is an ngf true, this component will be visible. If it is false, this component itself will not be in the DOM. Let me show it to you guys here. So if you come here, you see this, it is commented out since ngf is false. But once I go back, see, app button has come here because it is true. App button has come back and it's set to true. If I go back here, that is removed and it's set to false. So this is the use of ngf. You can conditionally add something or remove something. And ng style, it is for conditionally styling. Ng class to conditionally add or remove classes. So we are almost done with the header component. So now if you see this, we are saying on this, we have this UI subscription dot on toggle. Okay, till here it is fine, on toggle. But what is this subscribe, you may ask? So here if you see in our UI service, here it is on toggle. You're returning this dot subject as observable. So now I'll tell you. If you remember this button, let's see what the button is doing. It says emit. That emit is caught by this place, and this place is doing toggle add task. Okay, remember toggle add task is called whenever the button is clicked. So toggle add task is being called. Let's see what happens. So here a subject, as I said, is both an observable and an observer. All right. So what happens is um, here every time this is called, you have a default value saying show add task as false. Now every time this is clicked, show add task is becoming the opposite. If it was false, it is becoming true. If it was true, it is becoming false. And here this subject dot next, and you are putting this value. So you are, passing this value, and you're treating this as an observable now, right? You are basically just passing the new value. So if you see here, let me see, show at task is in the header. Okay, show at task, let's see, I think it is in tasks. What are we using it for? Add app add tasks. All right. So you see this app add tasks. Oh, sorry, not this one. Yeah, add task. So you see here add task, NJF show add task. Only if show add task is true, this entire form is going to be visible. If not, it will not be visible. So who is controlling that? On click of that button in some other component is toggling a value in the service. So now we can see why we put it in a service. So if it's in a component, it gets messy. You don't know when it's changing, why it's changing, and who is changing it. But if it's in a service, you don't care if it's changed from the button or the header. The change happens to the service itself. And from the service, if you see here, let me just first show you in the header what is happening. So here, you are getting a value from this on toggle. This on toggle is your observable. You are returning the subject as an observable. You have put a value into it, and now you are returning it as an observable. So what is happening here? This on toggle, this is an observable now, because you were returned an observable and you have to subscribe to it. And now this is the success function. That is the next function. And now what are you getting? You're getting a value, and that value you're updating in this show at task. That's all you're doing. All right. You're getting a value and you're updating to the show at task. So now let's see what is happening here. In this app at task. Here also, if you see, you're doing the same thing. You're doing exactly the same thing. And constructor, I'll tell you one more thing about it. So depending on the value, you have to display or not display, right? That is the show at task, and that is being controlled here in this if statement. And whenever the value changes, you just want the update of the value, so you have to be subscribed. That's all it is. So if you see, one piece of data can be accessed by multiple components, and any change is being emitted to all of these components. Everyone is notified of the change, and that is why you use an observable. Many places subscribe to the same data. Whenever data changes, everyone is updated. So how to do that? You use a subject, and let me show you one more thing here. This subject you just create it like this, a new subject, and you pass in the value whatever you want it to have, and you just return it. That's all it is. You pass it and you return it. So whenever this changed value has to be sent to everyone, call this function. So on click of the button, we want it to be sent to everyone, right? So on toggle here, wait a minute. Yeah, this is to toggle, where was it? Toggle add task. You're coming here, toggle add task. What is this toggle add task? It is changing the value and it is setting it up. So on this on toggle, this update itself is being called by the button, because on click of the button only you want the value to be passed, right? No, it's not here. Where was it added? I think it's in the header. Give me a minute. On toggle. Yeah, here it is. On toggle is for that one. Oh, is it another one? Start subject as an observer. It's gonna emit and oh, sorry. I was a little confused. Right here, whenever you say this dot subject dot next, this value is this new value has been thrown there, but this on toggle has to be returned for it to access it. In the UI service header, yeah, on toggle, yeah. If you see here in the constructor, we are calling it. I'll explain this right now so that I don't forget. It's called life cycle. So every page has a life cycle. All right. I'll tell you what it is. Yeah, this is good. So whenever your page loads, right, first the constructor is called, then ng on changes, then ng on init. So this is when your component gets its initial data. So on changes, first time it is called, but it's not going to do anything. So you don't have to worry. Then what happens is ng on init is called. So this init is called when the component is loaded for the first time, and all the values are initialized. Then do check is called when you want to check if a value has changed. If by value, you know what value I mean. It is this property. If you see here, let me go to this header. Sorry, where's the header? Yeah, here it is. Here I'm passing color and text, right? Whenever color and text is changed, then something has to be changed in the UI. Then the do check is called to check if changes are required. And if you want to execute some code after the content is initialized, you have to put it here. Or after content is initialized and checked here. After view init means after this page has loaded. After this has loaded, if you want to do anything, you have to put it in view init. View init check is called after this. So right after this is going to be called. So you got to put it there. And before a component is removed, right, ng on destroy is called. This is important. I'll tell you what to do. You only focus on two things: ng on init, ng on destroy. These you don't need for now. Just remember, init is at the beginning when it is being initialized. Destroy is before it is removed. So if you have a look at our code, uh, like let's see, the header actually. He has not unsubscribed. That's fine. So here, if you see, instead of putting this in the constructor, you can put it in ng on init also. It is fine because constructor and this are called very close together. This is called first and this is called after that, because at this point nothing is there on your browser yet. You are still making the data ready to display it on the browser. So here you have subscribed to your observable. While destroying, you have to unsubscribe. So this subscription you take and you have to unsubscribe. So remember, any data you're fetching, you fetch it here. And actually I'll show you how the data is fetched also, but just remember this. Let's see how the data is fetched. For that, I will show you in this task service, get tasks. So get tasks. In this task component, if you see ng on init, we are getting the task and we are setting the value, because here on reload, you have to fetch data and keep it ready, right? And this data is being fetched from an API. So this is not the one. Let me just close it for now. Yeah. So here I'll just open up with a menu, and this one is running my server. I will do Control C. Yeah. So now my server is stopped. There is no data. What happens? You load it, nothing comes up. There is no data visible here. So whenever you load a page, right, any page, see, data has to come up. See, this itself is a good single page application. Look at this. This is made by Angular. Whatever data comes up, it's loaded. So on click, right, you can simply make that call and store that data, and that data is updated on click. But what about the first time? You're not clicking on anything. So for the first time, this data is being fetched by this ng on init function. This data is fetched here. Okay. After that, every single time you want to get it, it is always being fetched by some event like a click, or some data is typed, or a search happens. So the first time you have to get data from ng on init function, that life cycle. And before that component is removed, always uh, unsubscribe, So where were we? We have covered, so far we covered, yeah, let me just start the server again. So far we have covered how this button is toggling a form, and that's about it. We just covered this much. So let's talk about the rest of the things. Let's talk about the footer really quick. The footer doesn't really have any code. So the footer has that copyright, and it has this about anchor tag. You click on it, you get rerouted. So it's so simple. You just write an anchor tag, and instead of passing href, you have to pass router link, and you have to say what link you want to move to. But that router link itself, you have to okay, it is available on the UI. So here, right, you just write router link and you write this link, and on click it is going to move. So this is how you are going to route internally. Internally routing, you're going to use this router link. On click, it is going to reroute. If you don't want to do this and you want to add some more things to this router link, you can also do it inside this TS file. You can get a router link here, and you can pass some more data here, or you can store some data in the service and then move to another page and then get the data back from the service. You can do a lot of things. I'd suggest for that you can just come here and say router, come to router, scroll down, router dot navigate, I believe. Yeah, you can even get the current path, dispose, create, navigate by URL. Yeah, here. If you see, you can just pass the URL here, and before you just move, you can also do something. So you could just do take this function here. You can put it here in another function. You can do some logic, and then you can just navigate by URL to something else. But it belongs to router, so it is something like router dot navigate by URL, and for that you have to write here router of type router. Okay, and you say router dot. I can do it here. Let me just do it in function. So this dot router. Hmm, I don't think this is the one. Wait, let me just see the. Hmm, yeah. So you see, oh yeah, this is what I missed. I missed to give access specifier private. Yeah, now it's all good. So here router dot navigate, and this takes in an array, and here you can pass the path. You can say slash you know just slash to go there or slash about. You can navigate like this from your program, and before this you can set some data in the service so that you can pick it up later in the next component. That is how you can do some data sharing as well. But if you just want to move, you can directly say router link. I don't want this one. So if you just want to route and do nothing else, you can just put router link here. So this is the footer component. Now let's actually go to the actual application, that is this app add tasks, and how we are displaying each and every single item. So once we're done with this, I think this to do app will be done. So let's see how it happens. So app add tasks, what happens, it has an event, we'll look into it. So app add tasks here. So what is there here? uh, if you see here, as I showed you, This is just a form, and I'll tell you how you can access values in a form. So you need to create one variable each. So for this case, text, day, reminder. Text, day, and reminder are created, one variable each with the type, and here default value for the checkbox. So here, right, it's just like any other form. This is just for styling, div, label. But in this input, right, you have to use this ng model. So ng model, what it does is, whatever value is there in the ts file, right, say text is defaultly set to, I'll show you actually. I will set the default value of this text to default value. Okay, now should have been loaded. Let's see our application. It has default value, but when I edit something here, right, the value of text is also edited. It is going to be here. Now the value of this text is going to be default because I edited it in the UI. So this is a way for you to pass some value from the program to the UI and back from the UI to the program. This is called two-way binding. So you have to put this square bracket, and then you have to put this parenthesis, and then write ng model. So Angular calls this banana in a box. It's like a box inside and a banana inside. I don't really understand how this is a banana, but that's what Angular said. So this banana in a box model. So uh, you have to give the variable what you're binding it to. That's about it. So this way you can easily access any form data. So what we're doing here, we have one input field here, one input field here, and then we have a last input field here. All of these are taking some binding, that is they're bound to some variable. All right. Um, hmm, Give me just a second. Let me get my charger. Yeah. So here, uh, these variables are bound to the input. So whatever happens there changes, you will be able to access through this. Whatever changes you do here will be displayed. So just remember that much. So this is plenty for you to make a form. So you just use this. This is the only important thing here. ID and type. Yeah, type is important. Name, ID, these are not. You don't really need to do anything with those. You just need this, and you need to have the type. So we have a form, and then we have our submit button. All right, our submit button, if you see, we don't have any event. That is because form already has an event which is called submit. So ng submit, whenever a form is submitted, by default, what happens is the page is reloaded. That is why we have ng submit and not submit. So if you do submit there, the page is going to get reloaded, and there is no point of you using Angular at that point. So ng submit is going to prevent the default behavior, which is a page reload, and it is just going to submit this form to the function that is mentioned here. That function is on submit. So you're gonna come here on submit. I'll go into this. See, they've even done some validation. If not of this a task, please add task. That means if it is empty, alert, make an alert. Let's just have a look at it. Please add a task. So you can do some simple form validation like this, and I will tell you about the next bits now. So this is the form. So what you just saw is this entire form and how it takes in value, but we haven't seen how it is storing in the database. So for that, all the database management things, what has happened is we put it in this task service. So every single thing that you're doing with the database, you're using this one. What is happening here is all HTTP calls are going to give you a an observable. So remember that much. So here we're just giving the type. This get task is going to return an observable which is of type task, and this task is something that we create ourselves. A task is an interface. So an interface is a custom type. So here you can see ID and question mark means optional. ID is optional. Then we have our text, we have our day, and we have our uh, reminder. These are all the things that exist in this object called task. That is what it means. So it returns an observable which has an array of tasks. So just for typing, statically typing it. And now you're saying this dot HTTP. This HTTP is something provided by, you know, um, Angular. So this HTTP client, you're going to get it. And in this constructor, you have to use it as a service. So private HTTP is equal to HTTP client. And you have to use that in your see all the modules, right? Every single thing that says module, you have to put it up here in this imports. Every single thing that is component goes here, and all of your services go here. Just remember that much. So for you to use HTTP client, you need to use the HTTP module. So that is why you're importing the HTTP module here. So remember that much. And now let's see what is happening in this task service. This task service, you're setting this API URL to 5000 slash tasks. You will be setting your own URLs over there from your Firebase. And what you're doing is you're saying HTTP a get request, which is going to give you, an array of tasks. This is going to get you an array of tasks, and this is the URL. You're simply going to hit this URL and get an array of tasks. If not, you're saying make a delete request, and this is going to give you a single task, and you have to hit this URL. This URL is this one, the main URL slash task ID. And if you want to add an if you want to update a task, it is slash task ID, and you have to pass in this body. This is a request body here. So whatever post body you want to have, right, it comes after the URL, and the last one is the options. Options basically are your HTTP request options, like headers. We're setting the content type to application JSON. That's about it. So it takes in three parameters: the URL, the post body, and then the request params. So what happens here, if you see, only for put and post you can pass the, what is it called, post body. Here also you can, but since we're not putting any body, you don't need to specify the content, what kind of content it is. So but for get, you don't have a body. Your get does not have a body, remember that. So first is your URL, then it is your post body, and then it is your options. So finally you're having all of these ready. Now let's see what happens in the code. So here, if you see, you have your app task item. This is the main thing here, which is displaying this bunch of tasks. So let's go to that one, app task item. Let's see what is there. So it is a div, and that div has ng class, meaning it is selectively going to apply this reminder class based on the status of task.reminder. I'll go into that in a bit. And on double click, we're calling on toggle task. Okay, and this function also we'll see. And then we just have some more HTML to show the X button. This is for the text, and this is for the X button. This FA icon, and then we have the day. So this is basically just HTML to show you this, and this. So there are events. I'll go into the events, but before that, let's have a look into this tasks first. So this on init, we are going to the service and saying get tasks. If you remember, get tasks is going to get you all of the tasks, and you are subscribing and getting the value and naming a task, and you're setting it to this your variable saying this dot task. So this array is going to get all of the tasks from the database on ng on init. So what happens to this array? If you see right here, ng for task of tasks. This is how you do your for loop. So ng for and let task. This is each and every object from that array. Task of task. You can also have something like I as index. It's a semicolon actually, not a comma. Yeah. Then you can have f as first. F will be true or false. If it is the first element, it will be true. Then it will be false if it is not the first element. L as last. You can also have something like E as even if the element is even or odd. O as odd. We have these. So for now, we just need this. In this for loop, you're getting the task, and then you are passing it as a prop to this app task item. You're passing it as a prop to app task item. So let's see app task item here, task item. Yeah. So you're passing what task? The task, yeah, has to be here input task. You're getting that as an input, and you have two events that you can do. You can either toggle it as, or you can delete it. So what are the two events? On toggle and on delete. So basically you just have to say in the not the spec file. Yeah, let me go to the HTML file. So you're saying not here. Where is the task? Yeah, here it is. If you see on the X, we are having on click, you do on delete, or we are saying on the normal body, if you double click, you're going to do toggle. So what is toggle doing? Let's have a look. Toggle is basically taking the task and it is emitting it. It is emitting the task as an on toggle reminder, and delete is also emitting the task as on delete task. So what is the parent of this? It is tasks. So parent has to catch these events, right? Parent is catching these events as on delete task and on toggle reminder, and it is saying delete task toggle reminder. Created two new functions. Here if you see delete task, you're making an API call, task service.delete task, and you're subscribing, and the value you're getting, delete is simply removing, right? So you're saying filter that one task. If this is successful, filter that one task from the UI. Toggle, what it's doing, you are simply going to set the task not reminder to the opposite of what it was. You're setting it right here so that that particular task is automatically updated here on the UI, and then you have to update on the API as well, right? So you are passing it here, update task, and you have to subscribe. Since you don't need the value because you're automatically updating here, we haven't subscribed. You can totally subscribe and do something here, but uh, at this point it's not necessary. And to add, right, where is add coming from? Add is going to come from that add button, no? So that is in header. If you see on button click, it is not this one, it is in the form, sorry. So this form has this button that submit. This submit, what it is doing, let's see, submit is also simply emitting on add task, and it is sending you a new task object. It is taking this data and it's setting text is equal to this dot text, day is equal to this dot day, reminder is equal to this dot reminder. If you remember, these are bound to the form. These are individually bound to each and every input. So you're saying on add task, you're passing this event back. Then in the parent item, what are you doing? The parent item was this one. So here, sorry, this is in the parent item. I think it was here task item. Where is on add task? Oh yeah, it was a function, right? So here add task, right here on add task is emitted. What is the parent of this add task? It is tasks. So here if you see, where is that? I don't find it. Yeah, tasks.html. Oh, it's on the very top. Sorry, I didn't see it. So here if you see, you're calling this add. On event, you're calling a specific function. What is that function doing? It is simply making another API call. It's taking the task and it is pushing it to the database. It is subscribing and it is adding that new task to your UI as well, because it's been added to the database, right? So it has to be reflected in the UI. So you're pushing it to the existing task array. So this is how you make a simple to-do list in Angular. I know it sounds big and complex, but as your app is scaling, right, from a single page to multiple different pages, this is going to make things very easy for you. So I would suggest you people learn this. Plus, now I will tell you 11 learn observables, then learn HTTP requests, and the last one is please put some extra focus on events and component interaction. Events and component interaction. So this is your to-do list. I will be sharing some resources. You will be getting it via mail, I believe. So do go through that. It is very simple. I can say I learned Angular in 2 days going through that. So now you basically have an idea of what Angular is capable of and how you can work with it. So going through that, you will be able to master Angular in 2 to 3 days if you do give it some time. So that's it for today's session. I hope you guys learned something from this, and yeah, that will be all from me.
Thank you, sir, for such a wonderful session today. And I hope you all enjoyed it and are taking back something from it. So be sure to fill out the attendance form because it's going to stay open only for another 2 minutes. And I'm sharing a link to the post in our Google group that has all the details about the assignment. So make sure if you still haven't received it, although it was sent to about 221 people who are already added in the Google group. But in case you were not added because you did not register earlier, so you can still check it out. I'm just sharing the link. I have shared the link, so just click on it and it might ask you to join the group if you haven't joined it. Once you click on join, you just have to reload and you'll be able to see all the details. Once again, I'll repeat what the details are related to the assignment. So, what you have to do is you have to build a mini project. You can either use HTML, CSS, SAS, JavaScript with Firebase, or you can use all of these along with Angular with Firebase. Using Firebase is a must in both of them. And if you are using Angular as well, there might be some extra gifts if you make it to the top submissions. And the guidelines basically include that you can do it individually. Team participation is not allowed in this. And for submitting it, you need to make a 150-second or 2.5 minutes video where you will be going through your project and showing us what it is about. And we'll share the form related to that later. And you also need to make a GitHub repository, which should be made after 25th of May. So that means you should not be using a project that you have made in past. And attending these three sessions was mandatory to be considered in the submissions. Without attending these sessions, making the project won't make any sense. So make sure you have attended these sessions. And the next session is on Firebase, which will be happening on 29th. And I forgot, I missed mentioning the theme. So the theme of the project should be something that is in one way or another helping others or solving a problem. Like you can make anything on education or a knowledge sharing platform, or it could be anything, but it should not be something that's personal like a portfolio or something. So just keep the theme in mind while making your project. You can also make something like a quiz app that helps people learn. So just be sure that your theme matches with the guidelines. And thank you for attending today. We look forward to see you all on 29th for the Firebase session where you will learn how to deploy your apps using Firebase. So we'll see you on 29th. Thank you everyone, and thank you Akshay sir.